Welcome to Storytimer at Large. Linda, Gerald, and Deborah Bricca, 1966. Gerald and Linda and 4-year-old Deborah Bricca lived at 3381 Greenway Street in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's in a western suburb of Cincinnati called Bridgetown. They had only been in town 3 years. The neighborhood was only about 10 years old. It was a desirable neighborhood to live in. The typical post-war suburban neighborhood, beautiful lawns. It was a quiet neighborhood, and neighbors often had backyard barbecue parties. Neighbors, socialized and talked to each other, and typically, were very tight knit, even though it was a fairly new neighborhood. Gerald Bricca, who went by Jerry, he worked quite a lot. He was kind of a workaholic. He worked on Sunday, September 25th, 1966, and he often went to work for a while on Sundays in the mornings. He came back from working. He took the garbage out to the curb sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. The rain, it had been a rainy day and the rain had let up for a little while. He spoke with a neighbor briefly then. That day had been rainy almost all day, off and on. Linda Bricca's dad, she's the mom there, the bride in that lovely picture. He called her on that Sunday night around 10 p.m. and he said it was a very normal conversation. He wanted to tell her about an upcoming vacation that he and Linda's mom were getting ready to take the next day. No one heard in the neighborhood or noticed the dogs barking on Sunday night or on Monday morning. The Bricca family had a couple of indoor dogs, and they were rescues. Linda loved animals, and even though the dogs were noisy, they typically barked a lot inside the house, or if they were outside, they typically did bark a lot. But no one noticed them barking Sunday night or Monday morning. And that didn't raise any fears until, people thought about it later. Gerald's boss called Gerald at 6:30 a.m. Gerald Bricca had failed to meet him at the airport for a business trip. Very unlike Gerald to not make it to the plane. No one answered at the house. He might have just decided to worry about Gerald's absence later, and because, he had a plane to catch after all. The dogs were locked in a downstairs basement room, and that was very, very odd. By late Monday and Tuesday, the dogs were barking quite a lot because they were hungry, they needed to go out, they were distressed. Where were their family? Mr. Bricca did not go to work at all on Monday, September 26th, or Tuesday, September 27th. Neighbors were starting to get really, really concerned. They decided, a couple of them decided maybe we should go over and check. The newspapers had been piling up. The Monday morning newspaper was missing, actually, though. It had been delivered, but it had been taken. By Tuesday, neighbors were worried enough by the dogs barking and the newspapers piling up that they went knocking. Two men, Richard Myers and Richard Jansen, noticed that the front door was closed but not locked. The doorknob was loose to the touch. As soon as they opened the door, they smelled the odor of decomposition. At least one of them had been a veteran of the war and knew what he was smelling. They called Linda's name several times. They thought they could see a leg on the floor of the bedroom. They left quickly and called the sheriff's office. Linda and Gerald were found in their bedroom lying on the floor. Linda was found on top of Jerry. Linda Bricca had been raped and stabbed in the chest. The bodice of her nightgown was ripped. Jerry Bricca had 2 men's socks stuffed in his mouth. He was also stabbed in the chest. Tape residue was found on his face. This is a killer who is not averse to looking his victims in the eyes. The killer had not brought a weapon with them, which is strange. He had actually used a knife found in the house. 4-year-old Deborah Bricca was stabbed in the back several times. The knife went all the way through her torso. This is a killer with no qualms about killing a child. Why in the back? She was found at the front of her bed on the floor. Had she hidden under the bed and been pulled out? That's what investigators surmised. She had on a nightgown and had on 1 red sock. Her other sock was found in the relatively undisturbed bedclothes. She was found face down and her arms and legs were outstretched. There were no signs of forced entry. Some people theorize that this means that someone in the Bricca family opened the door for a familiar person. But the unlocked doors may not mean anything. Many people in those days did not lock their doors until they went to sleep for the night, till they went to bed for the night. In my house, we lived in rural southern Indiana, and literally, if we were going to go on vacation, a couple times in my childhood, we went to Florida for a week. We would have to hunt around to look for the house key. We would have to look through the junk drawer and find the house key because it wasn't on my parents' key rings. We literally never locked our doors until, it was time to go on some sort of vacation. Drawers were pulled out, open in almost every room, but nothing much appeared to be taken. Money, though, was taken from Jerry's wallet. The knife used was taken from a meat carving set kept on the dining room hutch. It was taken from the scene by the killer. Gerald and Linda had marks on their bodies that indicated that they had been bound up, they had been tied up. Their wrists appeared to have been tied behind their backs. But those bindings were removed after their death, and the killer took them with him. Gerald's mouth had been taped with medical tape, and that was also taken away. A small piece of it, though, remained on his face, which led investigators to realize that his mouth had been taped shut with the socks inside. Most people had that kind of medical tape in their medicine cabinets for taping on gauze. Gerald and Linda each had a penetrative head wound that was found not to have been caused by the knife. Those wounds aren't described in any more detail in the newspapers. I'm not sure what type of instrument was used for that penetrative head wound that was not caused by the same knife. The medical examiner theorized that the killer was left-handed. The medical examiner found semen was present in the body of Linda Bricca. He did not rule this as a rape, though, because there were no injuries or signs of a violent rape. He felt that she could have had consensual sex earlier in the evening. Gerald Bricca was found not to be the contributor of that semen. To me, this doesn't rule out rape by the murderer. It could be that the murderer had already tied up and injured Gerald. The murderer could have threatened to kill Debbie if Linda did not cooperate. Linda might have complied with his demands for sex in order to save Gerald and Debbie. I think this killer just wanted to kill. He wanted to kill a perfect little family. I think this killer also committed the 1969 Daimler-Wilson murders in Cincinnati. I've made a video about that a few weeks back. You can find it if you go to my channel and scroll down through videos. Anytime you're looking for another video of mine, you can either Google the name of the person, or you can, search the name of the person on Facebook or on YouTube. Boy, I'm terrible today. Or you can click on the picture icon of my channel or the name of my channel there, and it'll ask, go to this channel, and you click yes, go to the channel. And then you can see videos, there'll be categories: videos, shorts, posts, playlists, and you can scroll down through all the videos under the video tab and find the Daimler-Wilson murders in Cincinnati. In both of those crimes, the Bricca family and the Daimler-Wilson murders, both of those crimes, the bindings that were used to tie the people up were taken away from the crime scene. I think that the killer wanted to hold on to those as a souvenir and use those probably in his own fantasy time, perhaps when he relived these things and reveled in them, probably masturbating. I think the Daimler children were not killed in that 1969 murder because they didn't wake up. But I do think Debbie Bricca was killed because she woke up, went to her parents' room, saw the killer, and then ran to hide under her bed. And so he had to eliminate her and go into her bedroom and pull her out of there and stab her in the back. That would kind of explain why she was on her stomach. If you crawl under your bed to hide, that's how you're going to be hiding most likely. Many other articles about this Bricca family murder case look deeply at Linda's infidelity with a local veterinarian. Linda worked at this veterinarian's office, but I just don't see him as the murderer. I mean, maybe, but hopefully DNA testing can take place that can solve this case once and for all. But I don't think this murder to me doesn't seem like, the work of a jealous lover who also has a very successful veterinary practice in Cincinnati. This to me seems like someone who really just wanted to kill a perfect little family. I mean, you've got this really outstanding, perfect looking couple in this beautiful home. They've got a lovely little daughter. And this person is very upset by this. I think this person sees this family as having everything that he can't have. And he is extremely upset by this. These people have the life that he wants. I think this killer might have been inspired by the murders of the Clutter family detailed in the 1965 book In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. And I think this killer is Eugene William Gall. I talk about him a lot, and that's because he, in all of the killers I've looked at, all of the murderers, and there are hundreds and hundreds now, I think he really stands out as someone who is very capable of doing this. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Eugene William Gall was born to a father who was in the military and had a fairly high rank. think he was a colonel. He was not, he didn't grow up in a loving household. It was a very strict household with a lot of violence as well. His father was a postal carrier, and so his father wore that postal carrier uniform in the 60s. Gall went to high school. He graduated from high school. He went off to the military, and in 1964, he was only in the military for a few months before he was arrested for being a peeping Tom. And then he was quickly no longer in the military. I think there's more to that story than just being a peeping Tom. I think there was some other things going on that led the military to say, you got to go. Because, this is the military in the 1960s. And a lot of things, a lot of really bad behavior could be swept under the rug as long as you could get out there, shoot that gun, and do the job they needed you to do in Vietnam. The murders that Gall is was officially found guilty of and was incarcerated for. In 1978, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for the 1977 rape and stabbing murder of 11-year-old Beth Ann Moat in Dayton. He stabbed her in the chest. He was found guilty of the 1977 rape and murder of Lisa Jansen. He kidnapped her off the street in Cincinnati, took her to Kentucky, and raped and murdered her there. While he was in Kentucky, he committed an armed robbery of a mini-mart. There were people in the mini-mart. He didn't just walk in and rob just the clerk. He robbed everybody in there, held up the whole place at gunpoint, walked around, took people's personal items, shot one lady in the arm, I think, but she survived. And then police in Kentucky were called to the scene, and they tracked him down, and there was a shootout, and he murdered in that shootout a Kentucky policeman. So he was also tried and convicted of that policeman's murder. He had abducted Lisa Jansen, as I said, from Cincinnati, and killed her in Kentucky. But I don't think he began killing in 1977. I think he'd been getting away with this for a long, long time. I believe that he was the killer of Jessica Minter and Beverly Jarosz in 1964. They lived north of Cincinnati in different towns, but both of those girls opened the door to a stranger who killed them. Both were said to be very wary of strangers and not someone who would open the door. But I think that stranger was Eugene William Gall Jr. wearing his dad's Postal Service uniform, pretending to have a package that needed a signature. What good girl is not going to open the door to sign for a package for their parents? I mean, that's just, you need to do the thing that would be acceptable to your parents, and that's making sure that package gets in the house. If he killed those two young girls in 1964, maybe he was eager to try a more complicated home invasion and murder. In 1964, Gall lived in Hillsborough with his parents. And I believe that he, as a serial killer, he loved to drive around. We know that he did. We know in the 70s when Beth Ann Moat was kidnapped and murdered from Dayton, Ohio, we know that he was in the habit of driving elderly neighbors to their doctor's appointments, and then, driving around and, wasting time while waiting for these elderly people to finish their doctor's appointments or their dialysis or whatever they had going on. So we know he loves to cruise around and look for victims. In 1970, Gall was living in Middletown, and he was married by that time and had a child. He was regularly stalking and raping women and girls around the Lima, Ohio area north of Middletown, and even earned the nickname the Friday Night Rapist by police and newspaper reporters then. He was arrested, tried, and convicted of those 1970 armed robberies, abductions, and rapes, and was sentenced to jail and also some psychiatric care. But he managed to convince a judge that he was fine and dandy. So in 1977, in April, he was released. And that is when he began killing again. So by October, he had abducted, raped, and murdered Beth Ann Moat, and then in the spring of 78, Lisa Jansen. I hope that investigators will compare any evidence they have to the DNA of Eugene William Gall Jr. He's still incarcerated in Cincinnati. They know where to find him. Or not in Cincinnati, but in Ohio. He's in prison in Ohio. The Bricca family have been waiting since 1966 for justice in this case. We have the technology now to identify the killer of Debbie and Linda and Gerald Bricca. If there's evidence out there, if there's still evidence saved in this case, hopefully they saved some more evidence of the rape kit. Hopefully they saved clothing, bed sheets, anything at all that they found in that house. Hopefully they've saved it. And here's another thing to remember. So this happened, we do know, at least after 10 p.m. on Sunday, going into Monday morning. And that killer took the Monday morning newspaper with him when he left. So that killer is very much at ease. He's experienced. He can walk into a room, a house with two adults who are, maybe they were already in bed sleeping, or maybe they were still awake. But he walked into that unlocked house, and he probably held them at gunpoint, tied up Gerald Bricca, stuffed socks in his mouth, put tape around his face to keep the socks in, probably forced Gerald to watch him raping Linda. Debbie comes in. He goes into Debbie's room. She's run back in her room to hide under her bed, pulls her out from that bed and stabs her in the back so viciously that it went all the way through. This knife went all the way through her tiny back. So this is someone that we should definitely identify and catch, even if it is Eugene William Gall and he's already incarcerated. I think the family and friends of the Bricca family here, the neighbors who were traumatized in that neighborhood by this incident, and just the general public, everyone deserves to know. I know there's, crime happening every day, and we need to work on that as well. But we really need to allocate more funds toward solving cold cases. It's important to bring these killers to justice. If it's not Eugene William Gall, and it's someone else who's sitting around their house, watching TV, enjoying a life of freedom, that person deserves to face justice. I'll post the link for tips in the comments section. This one is handled, the Ohio Attorney General's office has a cold case website, and the tips are to be submitted there. So I'll post the links to submit those tips. Yeah, this is a tough one. They're all horrible. They're all sad. They're all dreadful. But, you know, cold cases deserve to be solved. So let's take a moment and we'll think about Gerald Bricca and Linda Bricca and little Debbie Bricca. And we hope that they do rest in peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to the video, listening to the video. If you're subscribing, thank you so much for subscribing. The more subscribers this channel gets, the more the algorithm will push out these videos to other people. Sometimes people still have knowledge that they think investigators know. They think, oh, investigators, they surely know this. I mean, everybody knew that in the neighborhood then. But they don't. If there's somebody out there who saw or heard something and just never managed to get that information to investigators, yeah, submit a tip. If you've heard something, quite a few times killers talk. Not always, but sometimes they do. And sometimes people know things that they just haven't ever spilled to investigators, either because they felt loyal to that person or they felt afraid of that person. But things change and people sometimes come forward. So if you have information, please consider submitting a tip. Thanks so much for everyone who's subscribing again. Thank you if you're liking, hitting the thumbs up button. It doesn't mean that you like murder, that you like this terrible, terrible thing that happened. It just means a thumbs up for justice is what I think of it as. Again, we're hoping the algorithm will push this video out to more people. I don't monetize any of this. I don't make money off any of this. The reason I do this is to solve murders. The injustice really bothers me, and I want to see some of these cases solved. So thanks again, everyone. I hope that you have a really good day today. I hope that you're kind to someone out there in the world and someone else is kind to you. And I'm wishing you all the best. Have a good day.